It's about love, not cash. Stealing money from the poor's a bit rash. Line your pockets, fill your tanks with your rockets. Look at it, we just can't stop it. Loving your neighbour with bombs is wrong. Loving your neighbour with bombs is wrong. Just don't be a cunt, mate. That's the only rule. Loving your neighbour with bombs is wrong. Loving your neighbour with bombs is wrong. All been going on way too long.
So I'm speaking with Sergey Baranov, who currently lives in Peru, but you've lived all over the place. You started out in Russia, moved to Israel, moved to California, and found yourself in Peru. Sounds like you've been there for the last while, and you're leading ceremonies with what you would call, I think, Huachuma down there. People might know it as San Pedro, also similar to peyote. And you've also written a book called Path, Seeking Truth in a World of Lies, which you've sent me ahead of time. So we'll probably be talking a lot about that book in this podcast. So thanks for joining me. I think where I'd like to start talking to you is kind of where you started with the book, with your time in California in the cult, in the Fellowship of Friends. And you spent a number of years in that cult, and it was very interesting to read about. And I just wonder how, as you went forward, and you're obviously talking about seeking truth in the world, how your time in this cult and being sort of tricked, you could say, by people, how that shaped your mindset as far as seeking what is true in the world.
Well, I moved to America for that reason, from Israel.
Right, you actually moved there to participate in this group.
Yeah, I moved to America from Israel, since I joined the place, and we were told that the headquarters in California, and that's where the teacher lives. So obviously you want to be, closer to your teacher,
right,
when you're on spiritual path. It's a natural desire. So I went there, I moved, and I came to California, and that's where it all started. So pretty quickly I kind of started to feel rather uncomfortable with what I have seen there, with the doctrine and all this weird teaching and all the distortion of ideas. And to me, it was rather strange, because before that, I already had lots of psychedelic experiences and searching and reading. So I had a pretty good grasp of what spirituality is and what are the higher states of consciousness are. And here I am told that you can achieve all that without any substances and drugs and plants, everything. So it was a big, that's where it started. And, continued, and you kind of see the inside of it, and you realize that it's not really leading you where you want to go.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, to me, it's kind of like this cult. Like, there's been a lot of cults out there, and they all have very similar sort of like histories and practices. And it's kind of like, you could say it's like the dark side of spirituality, or some of these paths people can go down, where it kind of becomes about the power. And you talk a lot in the book about the guy leading it, who sort of was manipulating his followers to keep them super busy, super tired, and working too much, and then taking their money as well, and just really being like just spending so much money on things that were unnecessary, really. But yeah, it seems
that's
like
putting it lightly.
Yeah. Like tearing things down just to rebuild them again and things like that. Like, yeah, living lavishly and whatnot. But yeah, that seems like something that is maybe a danger of people, say, maybe becoming, say, a shaman or something, and leading ceremonies, leading this group. And what was interesting in the book too is you went from this cult, you quit the cult, and then like the next week you went down to Peru to take these powerful psychedelics with shamans and in this group. And I wonder what was your mindset in that week, leaving this corrupt sort of cult, and then going to work with other people leading spiritual practices and things? Were you very skeptical?
The answer is both yes and no. Certainly, you develop a certain skepticism towards anyone who claims any spiritual superiority or secret knowledge after that. So you do have that. On the other hand, I intuitively I had an immense trust in the teacher plants, from my previous experiences in life. Yes, so I knew that the plants are real access to that dimension. It's just who is guiding that. That's the question. So I came with kind of with mixed feelings, and I came with hope to see something real, to meet real people and have real experience, and to counteract that 6 years of that, madness.
Right.
Yeah. So I came and we started from ayahuasca in the jungle, and it was a very powerful cleansing work and quite difficult. I came with a lot of baggage that I needed to release. So it was a completely different world that I found there. It was a world beyond all words and concepts, and you kind of find yourself facing a naked existence, with all that involved. And that was a very devastating, but in a good way. It was a very shattering experience, but a very healing. It has a very healing effect. It shatters all that ideology that you carry. So that it kind of cracks you open to a spiritual dimension.
There's something I can hear, like a snapping behind you or something.
That's a fire.
Oh, it's a fire. Oh, okay. Fire. I was just wondering what that was. It was like a window.
Just like to keep the fire going, just for the connection,
Oh, yeah.
To get warm too.
Just one, yeah, okay. It's actually more pleasant just knowing it's a fire then. So obviously when you went down to Peru and had those experiences, you had good experiences, because obviously you pursued that, and now you're leading these yourself. Like, this is much later, maybe 10 years later. Now you're doing it yourself. And you've chosen to work with Huachuma. And so why was it just something you resonated with more personally, instead of ayahuasca? It was Huachuma that you really felt a connection to?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. I came for 5 weeks, and it was 2 weeks ayahuasca in the jungle, and then we had to continue to Andes to do Huachuma here.
To the Andes Mountains.
So exactly where I live now. And I just had that incredibly deep connection to Huachuma from start. It was a very first ceremony when I took it, and within 20 minutes, which is very early, unless you're very sensitive. Usually the effect comes later. I already felt a very familiar space.
I've never taken Huachuma. I haven't tried it, but I'd like to, and I know it's very similar to peyote as well. Is that right?
Yeah, they're certainly brothers. They have some difference, but a lot of similar. It's if you like one, you like the other. There was mescaline cactus. So
mescaline being the main psychoactive thing, but there's different, I guess, alkaloids, people call them, in the plants.
Different combination, different alkaloids, different environments, so they reflect that. But peyote is peaceful medicine. I love peyote. He saved my life in Mexico. We have a eternal bond, and I always love peyote when I have some, and just take by myself. But it just happened this way that I found myself in Peru and working with Huachuma, serving this medicine. And to answer your question, that it was just a personal connection. It was a resonance. I just felt like this medicine is most compatible with my physiology and my psychology.
Right.
So that was kind of a natural choice,
So can you describe maybe if you could compare the experience of taking ayahuasca to taking Huachuma? What is the difference?
Well, they are completely different plants, completely different dimensions. In fact, incomparable, yet complementary. Both are sacred teacher plants. With ayahuasca, it's a different work. You work at night. You have to have a complete darkness to have. It's very visional experience. You work with visions, lots of visions, and you have to be complete darkness. So it's a more internal journey, and you don't have much interaction with the outside world, with the people around you, with the, it's that's why in the ceremonies, you discourage from talking to each other, and it's a very, very personal experience. So ayahuasca, as I see her, it's a portal to spiritual dimension, and a part of her, there are other spirits, helpers that come, the shaman can invite into ceremony through her and do the healing. So it's a whole spiritual dimension with beings and spirits and forests, spirits, and it's kind of a fairyland of the jungle. It's really that kind of Alice in the Wonderland, but in real time kind of thing. So I had a very deep connection with the spirits of the forest, with the river, with the trees. It was a very beautiful, although difficult, experience. But I certainly saw her magic and her beauty. She definitely has that face, although she also had other faces which can be frightening. So, and she's a purgative. Part of her healing is to make you purge. It's a very deep cleansing. So it's part of her adventure. It's part of the work. Is to purge. So so you do get sick, and it's kind of demanding physically. So it's not very entertaining.
That aspect of it. And then so with Huachuma, then it's something you're like, I've heard, like, because I went to the same place that you had gone to with Howard, and I didn't stick around for the Huachuma afterward, but what I'd heard is that you're out walking around in the daytime while you're taking this stuff.
Yes, it's a very different. We drink, by the way, Howard is a brother. I love him, although, we haven't seen him for 10 years, but I remember his medicine, his teaching. He was at the very base of my work. So he makes good medicine, and I always recommend to go see him. Now, yes, we do Huachuma in the daytime, and I particularly work in the morning. I start always 9 o'clock, 9:30, because just over the years I found that I work with beauty. I found beauty of nature to be an immense conduit for healing energy. And through that beauty comes a lot of gratitude and appreciation for life, and all that constitutes your deep spiritual experience. So we start at 9:30, and we go all the way until 5:36. We spend all day outside in the woods, contemplating, some talking, some thinking. It's really connection to the nature. And through that connection, you connect to yourself.
So it lasts quite a while then. It sounds like Huachuma lasts longer than ayahuasca.
Yes, much longer, 3 times longer. Ayahuasca is pretty much 4 or 5 hours, and that's pretty much with Huachuma, you're only peaking at 5th hour. It's like 12 hours journey, can be 14, depends on the dose, depends on the strength, can be 18 hours journey, depends. But the normal medicine that I make for people, it's about 10, 12 hours. So you have enough time to work, enough time to think about everything, and yet you come home and you have the integration time in the night, sitting by the fire, cooking with people, chatting, It's very social. It becomes social then, So it's a very different in that sense. And Huachuma, it's very interactive medicine with the world. You are present, and you work with the nature. You look at the mountains, and you listen to the birds, and look at the trees, and all that kind of facilitate that journey. So
you're not so much in your head as much as it's not as visionary as ayahuasca.
It's very visionary. Well, if you take Huachuma at night, then it becomes more visionary. But when you take it at daytime, it's a different kind of vision. It's not visuals like a fireworks kind of thing, like pyrotechnic in your head. it's not that. Here it's a different vision. You start seeing the real thing. You start seeing through the lies. You start seeing yourself like in the mirror. You start seeing the meaning of things. So it's more vision. It's like a deeper vision. It's like a more philosophical vision than visual itself. So it's it's a different focus. So we're walking. You can lay down, you can read book, you can write. It's very inspirational medicine. You are very much in yourself.
Right.
You are very conscious of yourself.
Yeah.
But you are in that magical dimension where things become possible, when you can really get to some points,
Right. Now, do you view it, I've heard this mentioned by many people who work in the jungle down there, that they view ayahuasca as sort of the mother or maybe even grandmother type of spirit to it, and then they talk about Huachuma as being sort of the grandfather, more masculine energy. Do you view it that way?
Yes, that's how I feel it. It's ayahuasca for me was a female. It was a jungle female. It's very very much it's clear. And Huachuma for me is more it's a grandfather. And a grandfather is because it's an old teacher of humanity, and so she is. And grandfather because he's kind. It's a very kind, benevolent spirit. He loves you.
Right.
I mean, you feel love. You feel like you're visiting your grandpa, who's not there to punish you or slap you. It's like he's there to love you. And that's the feeling of that grandpa energy. It's a kind, loving spirit that is there for your needs,
Right.
And I think it's good to start with ayahuasca if you up to this, because she's the best to shatter your worldview. She's the best to kind of put you in that chaotic state, in a sense. But it's a chaos that has a healing capacity, and kind of deconstructs you and then puts you back in a different order. So it's a difficult but much needed too, especially if you have some physical kind of things you want to get to. She's the deepest cleanser ever.
So you talked about your current practice. I think just before we started recording that you work with Huachuma every second day.
Well, basically, yes. When we have people, and we do have people pretty much all the time. So
okay, yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is if you do it by yourself without anyone, or it's always you're hosting other people.
Yeah, I don't have time to drink by myself anymore. I did it the first year. But then we have people, so I drink with people, yeah. So it's basically every second day of the week throughout the year.
Wow.
And sometime if nobody's coming for a week, so I have a week rest, but it's pretty much active.
So, and how many people do you generally want to have with you at a time? Or do you have a limit on how many people at once would come?
Oh, over the years I've seen that groups no more than 15, 16 people are better, because then it becomes chaotic. You can't work personally with everyone. There is just no time. The smaller the group, the more time you can spend with everyone talking, because some people need more time, some less. So it's different. I work with 3 people, same as I work with 10 people. It doesn't matter. But it's not massive. Groups here, because I don't actually like it. I don't find that to be effective on personal level. Just can't get personal with everybody. You have to feel their pain. You have to talk to them. You have to understand. It's like you have only 8 hours. And
that makes sense.
It takes 2 hours to unfold. So 10, 12 people, it's ideal. It's very good, and it's personal, and it's easy to hold.
So are most of the people coming to you from from outside of Peru?
Yes. Yeah. American, Canadian, European, Australian.
Right.
Pretty
and
much
when you are leading these ceremonies, you could say, are you always drinking the Huachuma yourself as well?
Yes, I always drink, although over the years the dose goes down. I drink now 4 times less than I drank 10 years ago.
Hmm.
I just don't need so much anymore. The medicine in my system all the time. I feel connected.
Right.
I
Yeah.
feel, I just take water on my cup. That's all I need to connect and be there and talk to people, and have my time for myself. But I have to compensate for the frequency with the quantity. There is just no need. You drink a lot of medicine in the beginning, to break through, to kind of, face your fears and all that. It's needed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then there is no need for that, So why forcing something unnecessarily,
Yeah.
You find your dose and you work with it, and it's perfectly fine.
And do you find
but that's the right thing to drink with people, It's just it's a right thing to drink what you give to others, It's just kind of
right. Yeah, put yourself right with them as equals, sort of.
Yeah, just you drink less, of course. That's fine because I drank 1,000 times already. So
yeah.
But you do drink and you do share the same space and the same medicine.
Is Huachuma very hard on the body physically? Do you have to sort of recover the next day?
I don't find that, and actually I find it to be very, very compatible with us. You wake up in the morning. I wake up next morning. That's the best time for writing. I wake up with clear head and very enthusiastic and optimistic and hopeful and feel great and motivated. It's like it's the best time. So, and I see people same. It's good to have a nap for people. It's like during the next day, just after lunch, you just nap for an hour and then you recharge totally. But you don't have any hangovers. It's
right.
a sacred medicine. You just wake up clean.
Yeah, it's not as bad as like alcohol or something like that.
Oh no, we're not comparing oranges and apple here. We're comparing oranges and toxic waste.
Yeah.
No. That's
totally
not
different.
No, nothing. You wake up in the morning, you in better shape that you came yesterday.
Right.
Gives you strength.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, it helps. It seems like it would help clean out your system a bit and just relieve stress and things as well. Which would
absolutely. It's a reset. You kind of resets yourself.
Right.
Relief, resets, recharge, reconnect, recalibrate. That's all you see actually happening.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to ask you something. I want to go like to the next stage deeper here, and because you mentioned something in the book a few times that's really interesting. And you talk about shamans sort of attacking each other in a sort of psychic kind of a way. And at one point you describe wearing like a necklace. I think it was a tooth.
Jaguar tooth, yeah.
Yeah, that is shattered as you're sitting somewhere in like some sort of a temple type of place.
Ruins.
Yeah. And you contribute, and your intuition was that it was like an attack on you by something, and that protected you. I just wanted to get your thoughts on this idea and talk about it a little bit.
Well, in the jungle, that's a daily activity. I mean, jungle, it's a war zone between shamans. People, you have brujos and people using medicine in that way. And it's all based on envy and jealousy. Basically. But that's a reality. It might sound strange, but that's what it is. And people who live there, they know that. So the role of the shaman is to protect his people and himself in the ceremony.
Right. So
that because when it's called brujeria, it's a black magic. So when dark comes at you, it can hurt you, and it hurts people who are in your circle if it's not protected. That's why there's protection on personal protection, then on the space. There's a lot of layers of protection, especially if you went to Harvard. And Don Robert, that's what he does. He put your all protection on you and then on the space, and because they know what's going on in the jungle. So it's a psychic. It's a psychic charge, just like bullets, psychic bullets that can fly in the air and hurt you, And I've seen that happen to other people, to actual Indian person in the forest. So I've seen Don Robert actually healing somebody from that. But then years later, when I came here, it happened to me. And that's exactly what happened. We were sitting in the ruins, and was praying ruins near Cusco. And just been thinking about something. And then I felt I actually saw like a flash, like very fast, like a split of second, just coming into my chest, And then the next thing, I hear a pop. That was my jaguar tooth. That's an amulet, protective amulet that I got from the jungle, from the Bora Indians, I think. And then it just was blown into pieces. So
that's pretty crazy, yeah.
It's like looking like, what is that now, So the first thought was like, automatic thought was like, somebody threw a rock at me or something.
Yeah.
Nobody there. I'm just sitting myself on the mountain, And then I realized what a psychic attack, And if I wouldn't have the amulet, it could hurt me pretty badly because that was pretty strong. So I have no idea who sent that, I didn't even look deep enough for that. I thought to do that in the beginning, but then I just didn't care. It's like whatever, I felt stronger than that, so I'm not even going to look at that,
Yeah.
So, but that's a reality. That's something that hard to ignore. When it happens to you,
Yeah.
When you hear the story from others, it's easy to say, no, that's just a hallucination, imagination. But if I was hallucinating, then how my hallucination, blew the jaguar tooth.
Yeah, one way or another, the tooth got shattered. Yeah.
There's a physical proof of that psychic attack. So, that made me think about stuff.
Right. So that makes me wonder then about the sort of these substances too, like ayahuasca or other psychedelic things that can be used. So they're not in their state alone, they're not good or bad, but some of these things can be used for different purposes. Can be used for either healing or harm. Then
it's exactly right. It's an energy form. It's like fire. I can use this fire now to keep myself warm, or I can burn the house down.
Yeah.
You can use a gun to protect your family from a robbery, or you can go rob somebody else. The gun is not bad. The gun doesn't have a personality to it, although plants actually do have personality. But it's the intention that makes it so. It's same with technology. Technology is not inherently bad, but you can do bad things with technology. So it's an energy. It's a form of energy that can be manipulated and controlled.
Right.
So that's why it's important to work with people who has integrity, who use the medicine for good, and good is healing.
Yeah.
And expansion, and
Right. So now I'd say if this idea is real, say black magic, so you put it, if this is real, I wouldn't want to spread it to people, but I'd like to talk about, how would someone go about doing something like that? Is it sort of like the idea of casting a spell? Is that it's about intention, and how do you create something like that?
Well, it's a personal matter. People in the jungle are not moralists. These are not Buddhist monks, and these are not philosophers, and these are, raw life dwellers. And, life in the jungle is life in the jungle,
Yeah.
So there are people who just don't have that kind of integrity and moral base, so they can use medicine for whatever reasons.
Yeah, but it's not something you haven't pursued this yourself to try to learn how to do this.
No, it's a dark place. It's where you don't want to go. You aim yourself towards light. Especially working with Huachuma, it's all about light. It's like you orient it towards light and towards good. That doesn't mean you're weak. No, you're very strong. It makes you strong. But you're protected by that light. You're protected by that vision, but your path, by your own integrity, your honesty. That's your protection,
Right, right.
Nobody is immune. That doesn't mean that I cannot get hurt. Of course I can. I probably will survive that after what I had in Mexico. But, nobody is immune. But you do develop certain trust in yourself, in the medicine, in the connection with the spirit. And you're just not afraid. You just walk your path.
Right.
You walk and you believe in good, and you see the good, and you seek the good.
Right.
So the dark side, it just kind of falls apart. It's just like it's there, but it's not really. It's kind of in peripheral. It's like it's not something. It's kind of low magic. It's low.
Mm.
It's considered low by any means. A high magic. It's the healing magic. It's the magic of transformation. It's the magic of resurrecting your spirit. From sick to healthy, from low to high, from weak to strong, from depressed and suicidal to productive and happy. That's the healing magic. That's the white magic, you can say that. So that's what it has more interest in me. It just has more validity. It's just more, just.
And I've heard it said when people talk about, say, just the idea of like being a good person, that it's much harder, more difficult to be a good person than it is to be a bad person, to put it in a black and white sort of a way. But it's easy to just say to not be good is to just not do anything. You can just be idle and not do anything and let things happen and let bad things happen around you. And that's easy to do. It's easy to just not take action. Whereas to be a good person, often that means to take action. Oh, it looks like you've frozen. Are you still there? Yeah. So one thing I want to ask you about, actually, one of my favorite parts of the book was near the end when you were talking about meeting a lot of people in Peru, sort of like hippie type of folk who were very repeating a lot of ideas that they had heard, and that are sort of commonly passed around in sort of psychedelic circles and things, of just oneness with the universe and all these kind of things. But you got the impression from a lot of people that there wasn't a lot of meaning behind their words, and that they didn't have a lot of experience to back up what they were saying, and it was just a lot of people speaking words. And I wanted to ask you about that and how much you've encountered that.
Well, that was my experience. That's exactly what I saw, and that's what I felt. I just didn't see any philosophical core behind those words. It just was like a regurgitation of sorts. It's like I haven't seen any criticism or inquisition into this. Like I haven't seen people actually trying to understand things deeply. So to me it felt very superficial and kind of an escape of the sort. It was. I haven't seen an actual surge as I have seen in myself. It was pretty strong in myself. So I kind of and that's the environment we have around here, and it's just something you see and you remove yourself from. I'm not part of that. I'm not part of any communities here. I'm my own thing.
Right.
I walk my own path and live my own life. But that was part of my experience, so I want to share it to kind of so people have some guidance,
Yeah, well, I would imagine because of your time in that in the cult, the Fellowship of Friends, and seeing people sort of blindly follow, I could see how that might be something that would bug you to see later on, and you'd want
Same thing.
Yeah, it's just this
same thing, just different concepts, different words, but it's basically and the difference is that here, there are no calls. I mean, nobody running a call like one person. It's just more like but it's kind of the same shallowness. That's what I thought. It was a shallow rather. It was not satisfying to me at all.
Yeah. Well, I think I wrote down a couple of quotes, and I think one. Well, this one I really like this quote from your book. I might read it twice because there's some big words. I want people to grasp it. But so it's the verbalization of transcendental experience, although perhaps a necessary step, is still the first detachment from truth. One can only experience it directly firsthand. The beginning there, the verbalization of transcendental experience. It's perhaps necessary, but still a detachment from truth. And I really like that quote. I really like that idea that it might be necessary to try to put language to some of these concepts to try to share them, but inevitably, though, people have to really find them for themselves because it's the only way to really get it, it seems like, right?
Yes, it's absolutely true. And that's a big question. That's a big problem that we have, is that now we're kind of moving to another area of all the spirituality stuff, that when you have a a guru or spiritual teacher, even let's talk about I'm not even talking about charlatans, legitimate spiritual teachers who are they
Right.
are, and enlightened people in India. Yeah, I believe that, but the problem is that, let's say, some Baba that you find somewhere. I mean, he might be enlightened for
Right.
whatever reason. He might be, but his awakening, it's firsthand. It's his experience.
Yeah.
He cannot give it to you.
Right.
He can only lead you. He can only guide you, and then maybe at the end of your life, you might have something similar if you're lucky. It's kind of a spiritual gambling more.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. It's like maybe after 30 years of this kind of discipline, something will happen to me. So, and it might. I'm not saying no, but it's it's another path. And for you to have this experience, it has to be firsthand. It has to be your experience. You have to feel that. And then you know that. And then you put it in words. So when you put it in words, that's already a second hand for somebody else.
Yeah.
So if somebody says, God is one, okay, that's cool. I agree with that. But God is one. It's his experience. For me, it's already a second hand. For me, it's a concept about that. It's a description of that experience. So that's why I'm stressing the direct experience, because this is where you understand yourself that God is one, for example, and many other things. And then you know what it is. You know what it feels like. Then you can share with others, and that's where we need to use words to to guide each other, to share information. Words is it's our tool of communication, but it's kind of, it's not a first. It's not how you perceive. You don't perceive with words. You perceive with direct perception. Then the words come to support that experience, to describe that, to share further. So we need words. We need words to say, you have some problem. Well, go to Peru or somewhere else and take some plant and figure it out. So I use words, but telling you to go to Peru will not sort your problems. You actually have to book your flight and and go there and discover, or any other place.
That seems like what shamanism is really about at its core, is about helping people have their own experience and figure it out for themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the value of this. That's exactly the value of shamanic, psychedelic shamanic experience, because there is no dogma here. There is no teaching, there is no format. There is nobody telling you. And it's I create a space for you, safe space, giving you good thing. So you figure it out for yourself and you find your own answers. I'm not giving you I can share with you my answers, which might be good, might be not, but you find your own truth. That's the thing. That's what shamanic experience is to find your own truth, to find your own answers to your own questions.
Right.
It's not defined by any script. It's defined by the experience itself.
It's hard to know if it's just that our language is just too limited currently. Like maybe one day we'll be able to communicate in some other type of way, because it's just these experiences. It's not just what you see and visualize, but it's the things that are going through your head, and it's what you're feeling in the moment too. It's all this stuff in one. Yeah, you can't really express that in language. I can
tell you, okay, we sit in the ceremony. I can tell you, well, the mountain is breathing, which is medicine. All right, we see it all the time. The mountain is breathing. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Right. But for you, if you don't see the mountain breathing, it will be just the mountain breathing. It will be two words. And you will look at the mountain, it will just a pile of rock for you, So you have to see it breathe to know. And that's just one example, That's it. It's a value of direct experience that brings knowledge. And that's kind of knowledge I was seeking. Knowledge for me wasn't really, a bunch of information in my head, I'm not carrying I'm not trying to install Google in my brain. That's not kind of knowledge. The knowledge it's a different kind of knowledge. It's the knowledge of divine is the knowledge by awareness, is the knowledge by experience. It's a different thing, and you understand that when you have the experience. You know, and in this example that I gave you, you know, a breathing mountain, you know it when you see it. So that's the knowledge. So you have the knowledge of breathing mountain when you see it. You know.
Yeah, and it's too bad almost for some people who, it's like, if you really want to know what's going on, you have to figure it out for yourself. And it's just like, people don't want to hear that. People just want to have an answer so they can get on with their lives. But it's really like, it's going to take some time, and you have to take the steps yourself to get to these points. And
well,
it's just,
you know,
it
it's
seems
kind
like the
of
way
a cultural thing. People used to Google everything, you know? It's like, let me Google it up. Okay,
yeah. What's
psychedelic
the answer?
experience, let me Google. All right, so it will tell you psychedelic experience is this and that and that. And none of it is true. None of this, although the description is precise and correct, but none of this is the experience itself. You cannot Google it up. Right. You know, you can only Google, you know, you can like direction and kind of verbal descriptions of other people. But to have an experience, you have to be that. You have to take the medicine and feel it, and then you know it. That's the only knowledge that is valuable, that comes through your experience.
Yeah. And that's the only way, I think, like, as someone trying to promote these ideas that these substances can be used to help people, it really seems like the way that people are going to get it is by using it. They have to experience it, because they have all these ideas in their head. Like I promote the idea of psilocybin mushrooms often, that they can be very helpful for people. But people think of magic mushrooms and they just think of Alice in Wonderland, and they think of crazy things talking to them and hallucinations and all this stuff. And they have all these notions of what it is, but it's not actually, it's not actually what it actually is for people. It's a lot different, and it's just hard to describe. So it's about sort of spreading these experiences in a safe way for people.
Yes. Yeah, it's exactly right. You know, I mean, Alice in Wonderland is pretty shroomy story, but
yeah, it is. Yeah,
you need to be a participant of that to know. You need to have that tea with those crazy people.
Yeah.
To know what does it mean, you know, a never-ending party. You know what I mean? It's the experiential thing that tells it what it is.
And I wrote down one more quote that I liked as well, and it's sort of the same subject we're talking about here. So it's psychedelics without the genuine love of wisdom can be likened to fireworks, and astonishment without a teaching. And I think that goes basically with what we're saying as well, is that you can also use these things and have these experiences, but also not get to these points of learning or truth or anything like that too, because sometimes people are just using these things and just expecting fireworks. Just all they're using it for is to just get out of their head for a while and have a crazy experience. And they're not, it's the plant or the medicine or the drug alone is not going to give you all the answers. It is about working with it as well.
Yes, it's exactly, that's where the framework comes. That's where the shamanic approach is, you know, come to play. That's where intention comes. I mean, you bring a certain discipline into the experience. It's not enough just to take whatever it takes and think that you meet Jesus on the corner of your house. It doesn't work like that, you know. It takes meditation in terms of, in a sense of, you know, contemplation. It's more contemplation. You contemplate upon things. You bring intention for connection and healing and expanding of your understanding, and then you use the power of the plant to help you, and then the energy comes, and then it's a symbiosis kind of thing. It's you working with the plant, and you directing the energy. You directing in certain places where you want to, you know, to understand. Of course, you can take psychedelics, and it will not change you. It's not. It's kind of. It's important that you bring it up. It's not. It is absolutely the red pill. It is the magic we have. It's true, but it takes more to unlock it. That's what I'm trying to say. The magic has to be reached for. You have to reach for it. You have to work for it, you know?
Right.
It's not enough just to metabolize the substance. It can be just firework without teaching or meaning. And then you just, you know, and then you just had a psychedelic experience. Okay, well, plenty of kaleidoscopes in your head, and it's like, okay, so how that change anything in your life? How that make your heart wiser? How that help you tomorrow morning to start the day? That's why, and that was my personal path, and that's what I do now. It's bringing different teachings into the work. So I personally like Zen Buddhism, I like Sufism, I like Hermetic teachings. So that's what I ponder upon when I take the medicine. That was what I'm trying to understand. That's what I'm trying to learn from and share that with people. So that's a certain framework that you put the psychedelic shamanic experience in. So you have the raw experience, the nature, the energy, the element. You have that, but you also train your mind. You also lean towards thinking. So I found that to be very effective for healing too. When people understand. To me personally, the deep healing comes from understanding. You understand things, and that brings tremendous joy and liberation. And then you're free from that. You're free from some, idea that people talk about and nobody knows what to do with it. Just for example, just life and death thing, afterlife, kind of a reincarnation. I mean, kind of big thing, big subject that, you can live all your life and think about that and not knowing the answer. And I'm not saying I know the answer. I found the answer for myself for this. That gives me liberation. If there are more answers, that's fine, But you have to find answers that liberates you from all kinds of things. The point is to become free from dogmas, free from ideologies, free from everything, becoming free thinker and free human being. That's the point, and happy and confident and peaceful, and knowing your path. That's the point, and ponder things. I like to ponder. I like to think about things,
Right. So in that sense, if say people come to you to experience this with you, what are some of the things you do, like in your own practice and in your own ceremonies, to help people sort of steer in this direction? What are some of the
that's
rituals
conversations actually? We actually talk. That's my way. It's like the ceremonies we do it in silence, so people are discouraged from talking because it's time for yourself. Because if you start talking, it becomes social party,
Yeah.
The Huachuma, it's very social medicine. It's very friendly, social, sensual. You want to engage. It's a very much, but it's not where the healing is. You have to respect that. There are two phases of Huachuma. It's like the first is passive. It's a first 4 hours until you reach the peak at 5. It's a very passive. It's a lucid. You want to lay down and just close your eyes and lucid and go, where the medicine takes you. It's a very nourishing place. It's where you recharge. It's where the medicine scan you. It's where you feel loved and connecting and all that thing, You don't want to force any writing or thinking or talking during the time. It's a private time for you to become one with nature. Then when you reach a peak, that's it. You totally awake. It wakes you up. You just feel awake,
Right.
And that's more. This is where you write ideas and contemplate. That you become more active and you can engage conversation. That's fine. And the second part of it, that's already more. It's okay. It's more social and it's part of it. But the first 4 hours, we're not talking. I encourage people to be quiet. Then during the active phase, unless needed before, if somebody have a hard time, that's fine. We talk. But during the conversation, I just come to you and we talk, and I just ask you how you doing, and you tell me how you're doing, and the conversation is just flowing through it. I have no script. I have no questions I bring. I just come, hey Carl, how you doing, man? And you feel, I feel sad. I feel, I just realized that I'm not a good son, and I have to fix my relation with my parents, and I would encourage that, and I will share some of my stories, and we just talk. We just take from that, and during that conversation, we both understand something, and that's how I guide that. That's pretty much it. It's just spontaneous, intuitive talks, which we do, in private matter and silence, not to disturb other people, because although we do it in a group, it's a group experience, but I respect privacy, and I encourage that in others. So nobody in your face. We come together, for example, in a river, lovely magical place, and we spread. So I know where everyone is, but everyone has, you find your rock, you feel comfortable there. That's where you are. I'll
Right.
check with you later. So my job is to go and check on people and talk and kind of hold the whole thing. But you, as a participant, your job is to relax, enjoy, and find healing and understanding. That's it.
Right. Yeah, I like that idea. I like that openness. And so you don't have to wear a certain color of robe or anything like that.
No, I don't do that. I don't stick feathers in my hair.
Right.
I have all the ceremonial clothes you can imagine. I don't do it. And there's a reason why. I respect ceremonial place. I mean, there is a place for that. But I personally don't do it. I go with jeans, and the way you see me now, that's how I go to drink tomorrow with people.
Right.
That's what we do. Because although there is an important aspect of having the cloth, which mean you kind of preserve the tradition, and you reflect that. It's a good thing if you feel compelled, although it's not required. It's not necessary for healing, and it's not in the form. Healing is not in the form. It's not in the hair, not in your beard, not in your robe, not in your shoes. I don't care how much feathers you have in your hair, man. I don't care. I talk to you and I feel you, and that's what matters. Your authenticity matters, your honesty matters, your thoughtfulness matters, and your good intent. That's what I care about. I don't care how you look. If you sit naked, I don't care. So I don't do that. I respect that aspect, but I don't do that, and I also don't want to create a certain barrier between me and participants, because it's kind of I have that I don't want to. I'm just like you, Here I am, Westerner, sitting. Just like you. I'm just like you. I have more experience, obviously, and I can help you to understand some things and find healing. That's true, but I'm just like you. No different, no better, no greater, and the clothes doesn't make me special. That's kind of my take. So, but saying that, that's not to diminish that, and that's not to say that other people who wear clothes are, not genuine or something. It's a personal stuff. I'm just talking about myself.
Yeah. No, I spoke with someone recently who talks a lot about ceremony and being authentic in ceremony and things, and what I think that could do for someone if they chose, like, this is my, say, robe that I wear when I go into this state. It's maybe something for them that just puts them in the right mindset, or sort of sets the tone for what they're going to do. And that could work for someone if that was really, authentic for them.
For that, I use the altar. We drink always by the altar, and that certainly set the tone. I mean, that's the energetic anchor of the ceremony, and that's plays that part. You drink by the altar, it gives you that connection, and it's a framework. So when we go out, we're still connected to the altar, and when we come home, back to the center, we close the ceremony at the altar too. So I definitely have that element, but not using the cloth.
Yeah. So what would you recommend as far as, like, say I wanted to come down and join you and experience Huachuma with you? How many times would you recommend someone drink with you or stay with you? Or?
Well, over the years, I have seen different healing done over different times. So minimum would be 2 weeks recommended, because 1 week is really not enough. It's like you come, I don't know you. I need to see you in the medicine. I don't care what you tell me, how much experience you have. I need to see you. I take the medicine, I see how you react, and then I know. So, and I work with people gradual. So I'm not here to overwhelm anyone. I don't believe in that. My personal take is gradual diving in, going deep, but gradual, meaning I give you less medicine, I let you feel it, I'll let you go through your fears to get confidence and trust in the medicine, and me and you.
Right.
Next ceremony, more and more and more. And then you work with a certain dose that, So it takes a week to kind of, set the tone. So if you come for a week and you go, well, it's good. You still have an experience and you can understand things. But give yourself another week. It's kind of it's more healthy. And some people come for a month and 6 weeks. That's where it's really get deep. And we drink every second day, and then you really get to some points when your life can change. It's pretty deep impact on your psychic, on your on your life. So I really keep it open in that way too. So I kind of let you decide. I can make recommendations, but you decide how long you want to stay. Stay a week, but keep it open. Give yourself another week if you want. You know what I mean?
Right.
But a couple of weeks is good to start. It's, you need to 5-7 ceremonies to, every second day to see what it is.
Yeah.
So
that ends up being a lot of ceremony then if you're doing that every other day for like a couple of weeks. That's what you recommend if people really want to come and change something or heal something or work on something.
You need to dwell on it. You need to give yourself time and be patient with it, because there is so much you can drink at one day. I mean, you can't drink the whole bottle and there will be like 3 ceremonies. No. It doesn't work like that. You take what you can take for today and you work with what you have. Then you repeat it. It's kind of learning by repetition. You repeat it again with less fear, more trust, and you go deeper. And you take more medicine, and it's a progressing stage. So I see healing in 2 weeks, and I see more healing in a month, and I see more healing in 6 weeks. And it's really personal. It's what you bring to it. It's who you are. It's what's your problem. I mean, it would be different if you're suicidal. You need, that kind of work, or you're just a spiritual seeker and you just kind of want to have a direct spiritual experience to understand something, and, you're on your way. It's different for different people. But generally speaking, a few weeks would be minimum that you would want to give yourself.
Yeah,
especially considering sense. People fly from Europe, from Australia. It's a big expense. It's a time taking off. It's a big effort. So you want to take out of it as much as possible. You want to use it to the max.
Yeah. And would you mind sharing how much it would cost someone to come and work with you?
Well, that's kind of more personal. I keep it personal and talk with people in our email thing, because it's not one fixed price. I mean, I do discounts, and if people come and say, I really want to come, feel cool, but I just can't make it. So, we kind of work something out. So I can't just give you, okay, that's what it is, and people can get, I don't have that much. But I can tell you that I try to keep it as reasonable as possible to make it doable and affordable.
Okay, yeah. And then what about the legality of Huachuma in Peru? Is it totally legal in that country?
Yes, it's part of the culture, like ayahuasca, and people practice that left and right, and it's totally fine. I know every cop in town and every prosecutor, and they've been in my altar. They've seen what I was doing, and and sometimes we have patrols, police going by. I don't even pay attention to those guys. I mean, I just focus on my work and do nothing. There's nobody to tell me anything. It's a cultural thing. I'm doing what their ancestors were doing here 1,000 years before they came. So it's legal, and it's very important because I come from the West, and I've been doing drugs and psychedelics and everything you can imagine, and always you have the fear. They're always present, and it's traumatizing. It's like you're afraid that somebody break your door, and it's not good. It's not healthy. You cannot relax. You cannot benefit from what you do. If all you do, it's afraid that somebody break your door and the cops come. I mean, so you remove that. So here, by that factor alone, you can progress a lot in your healing because you're not afraid. You come, it's legal, you're not hiding, and sorry, my wife is asking what's going on. So,
it creates like a sort of a stigma as well. Not just the fear that a cop could break down your door or something, but also
I don't have that at all. Just a second, please. Let me just answer her quickly.
Oh, sure. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So I'm sorry, what we're saying about the cops breaking your door? No, no, no. I
Yeah,
don't have
it's
fear at
not.
all.
It's not just for like that. Say someone in the West, in say Canada, would think, oh, I'm taking say mushrooms in my house, and a cop might break down my door. But it's also, I think, people maybe trying it just have this idea that, oh, maybe what I'm doing is bad. It's illegal. Maybe this is a bad thing. Maybe I'm not
Very good
doing the
point.
right thing.
Very good
Yeah.
point. Important, because exactly, you're right. It's a psychological thing. It's like, it's not only you're afraid to be arrested, obviously,
Yeah.
but it's that fear brings that notion of you doing something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Doing something wrong. I'm taking a plant and this is wrong. That's what has to change. No,
Mhm.
it's not wrong. It's actually very right to do that. That's the gift of the nature. That's here for us, and we, as a culture, this collective psychosis that we are seeing in the world now, it's rooted in the absence of psychedelic experience in people's life. That's what's
Mhm.
missing to
Yeah.
fix you up in the society you are living. So what you're doing is not wrong at all. It's just being portrayed as wrong, and it's being called, drugs, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just to derail that and degrade that. It's it's a deep subject. I don't know how deep we can go here, and it goes back to Inquisition. It goes
Mm.
back to that time where Inquisition came to Mexico and made peyote illegal by
Yeah.
claiming that this is a devil root. So
Right.
what they did, I mean, that's kind of deep stuff.
Mhm.
Just briefly, what they did, they they obviously cut the the power that people had off. So by
Mhm.
cutting this from people, so it's a source of your inspiration, and then you don't have it anymore. So it's very disempowering,
Yeah.
disconnecting, and degrading. But they push that peyote, but by peyote I mean the whole shamanic tradition here. It just happened that it was peyote in Mexico. They
Yeah.
push that by making this illegal and claiming that this is a devil's root. They push that into the realm of mythology. It become a myth and legends. It's
Right.
kind
Yeah.
of it's the acts of the past. So
Mhm.
it's very disconnecting. You can only access it by language and myth, not by
Yeah.
actual plan. So that's
Yeah.
one. And another thing is, it created the fear that what you do, it's actually bad. It's satanic. If
Mhm.
you eat obviously logically devil's root, well then you're a Satan worship or something, And
Right.
that fear prevailed through centuries and went to the West, and academia actually did the same thing, but they use another term. They use pathology, but it's the same
Mm.
thing as this guy said that it's a devil's root. The other guys on on the other side, they said, oh, this is just pathology. It's a pathological experience. It's induced psychosis. That's what it
Yeah.
still,
Right.
that's what it still think that it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of bring that fear of, oh, either I'm a satanic worshiper, or
Yeah.
I'm a psychotic madman,
Mhm.
or I'm a lawbreaker. One of those, or all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, when you take the plant, you have the fear comes from all the way. So what left? I mean, it's very hard to deal with it. So it's actually part of the education, is to understand that Mother Nature is not satanic, and
Mhm.
it's not diabolical, and plants are not coming from hell. It's part of that deep programming. And
Yeah.
then the legality come, and then all together it kind of makes sense, and then the person can relax and like, all right, I'm not doing anything illegal, criminal. I'm not
Mhm.
doing anything evil, so I can embrace that and see what's there for me, because
Mhm.
everybody else failed me. My spiritual leader failed me. My politician failed me. I mean, nobody knows the path. Nobody knows how to live. Everybody is pretty much blind like everybody else. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you have problems, and then you have psychotic breaks, and then you have to go to your psychiatrist, pop some Prozacs for the rest of your life. I mean, and that doesn't work too. So what's left for you? You kind of explore your options, and this is, alternative that been around for thousands of years, that somehow at some point in history become what I just said: diabolical, later illegal, pathological. All this madness, all this nonsense have to be eradicated in your mind, and you have to see it for what it is. None of this is true. So that's part of your experience. Your experience actually shows you that. It's not like I'm telling you that. I'm telling you that now, but I don't have to tell it to people. Here is the medicine. You have the experience. You tell me how satanic that is when you, laying on the grass and crying the tears of happiness and feeling the love of your life and want to forgive and want to love and want to be good and want to be moral and understand what divine means. I mean, how that is evil. And then you come back home and you become a better father, better friend, better human being. Just let you experience. And you decide if it's bad or not. It's more powerful than I would tell you my perspective. If you ask me, I tell you what I think about it. But it's not, I'm not the one who's doing it, I'm just setting the stage for spirit to play the show,
So I want to keep going and talk about the illegality of drugs. And we're talking about the psychedelics. On one hand, that some of these psychedelic drugs can be useful for people, but what would you say is the ideal scenario for a country or culture to regulate all drugs? And I know in the book you talk about cocaine, and in Peru it comes from coca leaves, and it has a history of use that's not nearly as dangerous or negative as like crack cocaine is or anything. But how would you regulate drugs in a society if you could change it, as far as like even things like heroin and things like that?
It's a big question. I mean, I don't have a specific answer. I have some suggestions, maybe some thoughts, but it's a big thing. It's a complicated thing. But if I understand your question correctly, it's what would you do with legalization of all drugs, and whether your question is whether it should be legal or not.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of I think that it would be good if all drugs will be decriminalized, which means if you have, let's say, cocaine addiction or something, that should be looked as a social problem, medical problem, but not a criminal unless you commit violent crimes against somebody. Yes, absolutely,
of course,
you should be put away. But if you take whatever you take, it's your right to take whatever you take, and if it makes you sick, well, you pay consequences. If you die, well, you pay for your stupidity. So the information should be available, truthful information about drugs, heroin, street drugs, and I know all that from experience. I've seen that, I've did it, I know that it's bad for you. Obviously, heroin is bad for you. Obviously, crack is bad for you. It's the worst drugs you can imagine. That should be eliminated from society, but you can't eliminate it. It's always somebody will be selling drugs. It's impossible.
Yeah.
What you can do is to introduce alternative, introduce plant medicine, and it's kind of natural. It's like it's like bringing light to darkness. That's how you tackle darkness. You just bring light.
Right.
I mean, when the sunrise comes, I see mountains. I don't have to fight with the night. I just wait for sunrise and I see the path. So by educating, by making psychedelics legal,
right?
So you can practice and you can bring shamans in, and you can become part of your life. Then you develop a natural distaste for drugs, alcohol. I mean, for me, you cannot force me under a gun to drink alcohol, man. It's impossible.
Really?
You can. It's like, no. This is disgusting. I cannot take it into my body, into my spirit. You develop a sort of distaste for all that kind of thing. Same, you develop distaste for immorality and violence. You just rise above that. It's just not. It's not something you approve anymore. It's a natural consequences of using sacred plants. So let's leave alone, all the rest. It's like just decriminalize it so people don't go to jail for smoking pot.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, man. I mean, come on, for smoking a joint, you put someone in jail while pedophiles walking in the streets. I mean, come on, murderers walking around. That's cool, but it's smoking a plant, you go to jail. This is insanity that have to change. So decriminalization would just protect you from having your life being ruined for using a plant or substance for whatever reason. Then we bring education, psychedelic, shamanic, and then you kind of develop a new understanding of what's good and bad. And I think would be helpful if people would, make real films about drugs. Like go to drug area, to heroin addicts, and make a film about them. Show the reality of them. And nobody will want to be that. I mean, look at them. It's like, meth, smoke. I mean, look at them. I mean, it's just like, you look at it, it's like, you feel like, no, that's not what I want. That's not how so you show, and then you make film about people who doing medicine and show their faces and show their life. So you provide the real information about the drug use, the substance use, what it does to you, to your psychic, to your family, to your work, and let people decide, because the bottom line, people should not be regulated. I believe in free choice and free spirituality. It's like, it's a human right to do what you want, even if I don't agree with what you do, unless you hurt somebody, unless you impose your view on me or others, I have a problem with you, of course. But if you're not practicing violence, I mean, do what you want, man. Go drink a radiator cooler if you want. I mean, if that's stupid, but don't impose that on others. Don't force others to do that. You know what I mean? So you have to be, I believe that we need to be let alone. We need to be left to ourselves, to decide for ourselves and be responsible for our action, for our consequence. You have to pay for your own ignorance. That's okay. Next time be better. Learn, understand, put your time in discipline and acquire some knowledge. But if you just want to be foolish, well, you have to pay for that. So I don't know if I have the answer for that, but I think decriminalization would be a right step. And then, of course, you should crack on, the crackdown should be on dealers. I mean, those who bring that in should be prosecuted. It's like, if you go after them, then there will be no drugs around. So you kind of go to the source of the problem, not of people who are already victims of that. These people are, many people fall to drugs out of pain, out of divorce, out of losses. I mean, these are not criminals, for God's sakes. These people need help. So you put them in jail, so you destroy their life more because he lost his loved one, and now he's a heroin addict. Yeah. Unless you commit crime, you should be let alone. That's my take on it.
Yeah, it seems like you're promoting an idea of education being the number one thing, showing people, what these things do, what these different substances do, and letting them make their own choices and letting them mess up if they have to.
You want to be messed up? Your choice, man.
Because our society, our governments are very, in my mind, they're like an overbearing, over strict parent who's trying to over-regulate the people and trying to tell them, you can't do this, this is bad, don't do that. Where you have to kind of let people grow up and take responsibility for themselves and make their own decisions and learn on their own about these things.
Exactly. You've been led all your life like a child. At some point, child have to become a mature man, a mature woman, an adult. So over-regulation, it's just an insanity. I mean, and living in America, that's in the West. I mean, some you see in Europe, and it's just been overly regulated. It's just more and more regulation. And what does it do? Think about it. It just makes you more criminal. It just makes you criminal 5 times a day. It just makes you criminal when you wake up before breakfast. You already committed felonies. It didn't do anything. It's like it's the same thing. It's like you create more scenes. And then, and then you break more scenes, so you need more confession. I mean, it's the same story all over again. It's like,
and it creates a lot of distrust. People don't trust the police or the government because of this.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, and rightly so. Considering how much violence we see from police, I mean, that's pretty scary. and it shouldn't be that way. I mean, it's all wrong. It's all wrong. It's all screwed up. There is place for police. There is place for government. I mean, limited government to kind of, maintain roads and bridges. I mean, that's what it is, and make sure people's contracts are respected, and make sure that nobody, that you have a protection if you cannot protect yourself. Like if you're an elderly person, a woman, a child, these people need protection. That otherwise it will be chaos. So yes, there is need for government, but it has to be limited and reasonable and kind of ethical, which I don't see much. All I see is corruption. All I see it's not what it should be there in the first place.
Yeah. So what about with when talking about the legality of drugs? What about these powerful psychedelics in cultures? Do you think there should be any regulation when it comes to psychedelic drugs?
I think the medicine should be available, should be legal, but always come with education, because this education will be your guide. I mean,
right.
If you eat a cactus, I mean, or smoke a pot or whatever, you should not be thrown to jail. That's what I firmly believe in. You just should not. You should be guided, directed, educated. You should not. Your life should not be ruined by your deep, innate desire to connect to nature, to Mother Earth. We are organic beings. I'm not engine. I'm not a boat. I'm a human being, flesh and blood, like animals around. Like I'm a part of nature. So it should be. I think it should be legal.
Yeah,
it should be legal, and because if by making it legal, it doesn't mean that a million people now forcing their way into the job. I mean, people come here anyway. People go do things regardless whether it's legal or not. You cannot stop that. What prohibition did to to alcohol? It just put the price up. In America, when you had like 30s, it just made it more expensive. People were drinking alcohol regardless. What now is everything? It's illegal. What, people don't do drugs everywhere? You just get out of your house. You get folks trying to sell you stuff. I mean, so what? So it is illegal, but what does it mean? There is no drugs. There are drugs. Making it legal actually could help to diminish that, because you remove that kind of feeling of illicity. You remove that kind of excitement, which is a kind of wrong excitement. Is to I'm doing something illicit, so I'm cool. You remove that,
especially with young people who have
it's
that.
It's not cool anymore. You just don't make it cool anymore. You know? Go do drugs if you want, but that's what's happening. You get addicted, you get ruined, you get kicked out of your house, you lose your job, you lose your family. That's just down the road. And here are plenty of documentary and plenty of people's testimonial. So go do that. But if you do that, at least you have a chance to stop. If you get thrown in jail, man, jail it's a university for crime. You get there for no reason, you get out a criminal. It's just a production of criminality. It's a farm for criminals, prison system. So you don't want to be in prison. You don't want to get there, because that's where you get ruined. Truly. The drug still, if you use a drug, man, you still can be educated. You still can be cured. You still can be, and with this plant medicine, easy you can cure. Drug addiction, heroin, alcoholic, cocaine. I had people like this. And over weeks you see change and lasting change. So you can be cured. You're not lost if you want to be cured, of course, but at least you have a chance. Otherwise your life is ruined, and that's it. I mean, that's it.
That's that point about drugs being illegal, not stopping people from using drugs, is one of the main points I bring up when I talk about this with people, because people have this idea that, we're making drugs illegal so that people don't use them. But that's not actually how it's working. People what I like to tell people is that if you look at the homeless population of any city, the homeless people, right, they're the lowest on the social spectrum. They have some of the least amount of power in a whole community, yet they have access to any drug they want, usually. So how is it that drugs are so widely available for people who have very little money, very little social status,
get
very little
it.
power. They can get anything they want. So what does that say about illegal drugs? They're widely available.
Look at Portugal. Those guys, they just decriminalize everything, and I think the drug use went down.
Yeah.
Heroin, it's like went down. It's like it's not cool anymore. It's like people just kind of like, no, it's legal. I don't care about it. Yeah, I do if I want, but I think it was good what they did. And look at the statistics. It shows the drug abuse went down. And I think it's good because many lives actually got saved because people didn't go to jail.
Right, yeah.
So, but even if what I'm saying is wrong, I'm not claiming anything here, but I'm just giving ideas. But why not to try something new? If something that we're trying isn't working, why not to try another approach and see if that works? You can't make it worse. You can make it worse. I mean,
it's been getting worse as it is.
Bad as it is. You can make it worse. So why don't you try something else, introduce new ways, and see how that works? See what different that makes in people's life, in culture. That's the thing. It's like you have to move. It's like it's insane. If you're digging a hole, man, stop digging. Stop digging. That's the first step to get out. So that doesn't work. Prohibition doesn't work. All right. How about we decriminalize that and introduce actual education? Promote psychedelic education, shamanically based. We have all the tools we need. We have the connection with the cultures. We have the medicine. We have our own understanding, our experience. We can share it and kind of lay a new foundation and see what it does and give it some time.
Yeah, that's something I've thought about when it comes to these powerful psychedelics, and say we're going to introduce them into our culture in a sort of more legalized, regulated way. I thought I would be okay. Like I just want to see them available to people to use in a safe, in a good way. And maybe that means it's something like getting a driver's license, where you have to go kind of be educated, go practice with people who know what they're doing, and then you kind of get your license to use them. Like because they are, they're a dangerous thing too. So yeah. I mean, at least that way they'd be available.
Of course, psychedelics are dangerous. I mean, you have to understand the truth of it. Yes, they are dangerous if you're stupid. They're very dangerous. But so is a kid with a matches. Very dangerous.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like many things are dangerous, but not everything is illegal. It's like it's education. It's an energy that you have to mature into. You have to learn how to work with things. And there are people who know how to do that so they can share that knowledge. And then you do your own thing. And then you become a better influence in your community. Because right now, honestly, it's no longer an option. It's no longer an alternative to your boredom. I mean, we are in crisis. I mean, the whole world is in crisis. There is a serious cultural crisis. I mean, this is the window time. This is the time to decide what we want to do. I mean, if we want to have a future or we're going to destroy everything. So it's not even, maybe 50 years ago, it was kind of cool to explore your consciousness and understand. That's very cool, but it's not right now. It's more like a survival of our species, survival of your own sanity and survival of the whole species. I mean, we need to come to senses. We need to come back to nature. We need to realize that we are one with nature and we are destroying it, and by destroying it we will be destroyed.
Right.
It's a matter of life and death. So there is no time for kind of is it moral, is it immoral, is it good? There is a time for that, man. It's like you want to cut through your stupidity, through your ignorance, through your sickness. Well, the plants are here to help you. And then by becoming better, you help others. You just by example, you lead by example. You show a better influence. You show a better way to live. More peaceful, more engaging with life, more loving, more good. I just want to have a future for my kids. I want my children to walk on the grass and feel the grass and smell the rose without a gas mask. And I want them to... I don't want them to learn about trees in the Natural History Museum. I don't want that. So there is no more time for this kind of discussion of, this it's a shortcut to enlightenment. It is a cheating. I mean, we need to get
Oh,
over this
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I mean,
Right.
come on. We are on the brink of collapse. I mean, I can see, I can see the cliff. I
Mm-hmm.
can see the cliff, and not just me. Many people can see that the cliff is there, and we're
Yeah.
approaching ecological disaster, nuclear war, massive psychosis, and I mean, it's just all down the road.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree that it's like these time we're at sort of a turning point, like at a crossroads where it's time to make some bigger
some
decisions
changes.
and look at
You
the
need to make
future,
changes.
you know.
And the changes you
Yeah.
have to make in yourself first. You have to change yourself. You have to,
Right.
cut it
It
loose.
seems like that's
You have
true.
to
It
break.
seems like that's the way it is. You have to work on yourself first. Like you have to like clean your room first. Clean up your house, put yourself in order
Yeah.
and then move, then
And
move
then
forward.
invite guests. And then invite guests to your house. So
Yeah.
guests will see that your house is in order and it's all beautiful and it's all peaceful and
Mhm.
people are friendly and you kind of invite that to your life when you have something to share. So you start from yourself. Healing actually starts from yourself. And that's what we're trying to do here. That's what I'm saying. I'm just like you, trying to put myself in order, trying to make
Right.
sense myself, and then hopefully serve as a little candlelight on on somebody else's path along the
Yeah.
way. It's sharing is good
Mhm.
and needed
Well,
and much needed.
yeah. Well, I want to thank you very much for speaking with me. I think this has been sort of a enlightening little chat we've had, and I think people will enjoy it. Is there any last things you'd like to add, or maybe how people could get in touch with you if they wanted to reach out and talk to you?
Yeah, you can reach me in my website. It's shamansworld.org. Or just recently I opened another Facebook page, which is more interactive, and it's called Huachuma Wasi, which is from Quechua means the cactus house. So I
Okay,
share my
yeah.
picture there from ceremonies, some thoughts, just kind of keeping it, interactive and updating stuff. So yeah, I'll be happy to hear from your audience, and hopefully you come along and I can show you that which we were talking about for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
a very beautiful. And I encourage you in your own personal work with mushrooms, and I think it's a good thing you're doing. Mushrooms are
Yeah.
powerful shamanic agents and can be, when approached correctly, can be good guides and teachers. So anything you do is good as long as you keep it, do it with integrity and good intent, and that's pretty much it, and learn as you go, and don't be afraid to face your fears, and don't be afraid to change.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's it. Change truth is how I like to put it.